The tennis world is still trembling, still trying to comprehend the sheer force of nature that just ripped through the court. A seismic shockwave has hit the sport, and its epicenter is a young, fearless Filipina named Alex Eala. She didn't just win a match. She dismantled idols, shattered expectations, and announced herself as the future of the game with a vicious, relentless power that left legends questioning their own legacy. But what we are about to reveal is bigger than the trophy, bigger than the glory. While the world celebrated her historic wins, a backroom drama was unfolding, a battle for the soul of a new superstar. The stakes were higher than anyone knew, and now, a global giant has just made a move that changes everything. The air in the locker room was thick, suffocating with the weight of unspoken pressure. Alex Eala sat alone, the echoes of the roaring crowd still ringing in her ears. But they felt distant, muffled by the frantic beating of her own heart. She had just done it. She had just beaten a top 10 player, a woman who had graced the covers of every sports magazine, a player whose name was synonymous with victory itself. On paper, it was an upset of monumental proportions. In reality, it was an earthquake. But for Alex, it wasn't just about the win. The victory was the key that unlocked the cage door, the proof she needed to present to the world and to herself that she belonged. The media was speculating. The fans were jubilant. But in that moment of silence, she felt the crushing weight of her entire career. She had worked for this since she was a child, sacrificing a normal life, missing birthday parties and school dances for early morning practices and grueling fitness regimens. Her family had poured everything into her dream, her mother's unwavering faith and her father's quiet sacrifices. This win was for them, a validation of every tear, every doubt, every sleepless night. But as she sat there, the feeling of triumph was mingled with a deep, gnawing anxiety. She knew what came next. The whispers were already starting. The sponsors who had been hesitant were now circling like sharks, drawn by the scent of fresh blood and new glory. She could almost hear the phone ringing in the manager's office, a frantic, relentless sound that signified the beginning of a new, more terrifying battle. This victory had just made her the most valuable and the most hunted player in the sport. The silence in the locker room was a lie. Outside, a storm was brewing that would threaten to tear her world apart. The hotel suite was a gilded cage, luxurious but claustrophobic. The walls were adorned with expensive art, but all Alex could see were the faces of her agents and advisors, their expressions a mixture of greed and calculation. They weren't looking at her, they were looking at a commodity. "This is the moment, Alex," her lead agent said, his voice dripping with practiced enthusiasm. "Your stock has never been higher. We need to strike while the iron is hot." He slid a tablet across the polished mahogany table, the screen glowing with contracts and dollar signs that felt more like a prison sentence than a reward. It was the life of a professional athlete, a constant juggling act between the sport you love and the business that consumes it. Alex felt a wave of nausea wash over her. She had just poured her heart and soul onto the court, and they were talking to her like she was a piece of real estate. They discussed multi-million-dollar deals with rival sports brands as if they were discussing the weather, throwing around numbers that could feed a small village, but they all felt hollow. They didn't see the girl who cried into her pillow after a tough loss, the girl who missed her siblings' graduations, the girl who just wanted to play tennis. They saw the Eala brand. They pressed her to sign, to commit, to close the deal before the momentum faded. But Alex saw the trap. Signing too quickly would tie her to a contract that could define and limit her future for years. The pressure was immense, a suffocating weight on her chest. She knew that her next decision would be the most important of her life, a choice that could either elevate her to legendary status or shackle her to a corporate machine that didn't care about her dreams. The vultures were circling, and she was the fresh kill. Just as the tension reached its peak, a hushed whisper passed between her agents. They all looked at their phones simultaneously, their eyes wide with disbelief. Something had just changed the game. The murmur in the room died instantly. The agents who had been so confident just moments before looked like they had seen a ghost. "It's Emirates," one of them breathed, his voice barely a whisper. They just made an offer. The silence that followed was more deafening than the crowd at the stadium. Emirates. The name hung in the air, carrying with it a weight of prestige and global recognition that no other brand could match. They were the titans of aviation, the sponsors of the biggest names in sports, the standard bearers of excellence. They didn't dabble in tennis. They defined it. For them to reach out directly so soon after the match was unprecedented. It was a declaration of intent. Alex felt a chill run down her spine. This was the big leagues, the kind of offer that could secure her financial future forever and instantly catapult her into the upper echelon of global superstars. The room erupted into a frenzy as her agents tried to process the news, their greed now replaced by a frantic, palpable excitement. The numbers they had been throwing around from the other brands now seemed like pocket change. Emirates was offering a partnership, a statement, a ticket to immortality. But as the others celebrated, Alex's mind was racing. Why them? Why now? It wasn't just about the money. It was about what they represented. It was a signal that she was no longer just a promising upstart. She was a confirmed force to be reckoned with. The other brands had been trying to buy her future. Emirates was betting on her legacy. This was the moment she had been building her entire life for. The moment where her name would become synonymous with victory and grace. But with this incredible opportunity came an even greater responsibility. She was no longer just playing for herself or her country. She was now representing a global brand, and the expectation to win would become an even heavier burden. The pressure was immense, but so was the opportunity. This was the biggest gamble of her life. The press conference was a spectacle of blinding lights and feverish anticipation. Reporters from every corner of the globe had packed the room, their cameras pointed like weapons at the podium. This was the moment the world had been waiting for. The rumors had been swirling for hours, a wildfire of speculation that burned across social media. Emirates had issued a press release, a cryptic message that promised a significant announcement concerning a rising star in the world of tennis. The crowd knew who it was about. They had watched Alex Eala's miraculous run, and now they were here to witness the coronation. As Alex walked to the podium, flanked by her agents and a high-ranking executive from Emirates, the room fell silent. She looked poised, but inside she was a whirlwind of nerves. She looked out at the sea of faces, all waiting for her to say the words that would change her life forever. The executive stepped forward, his voice booming over the sound system. He spoke of excellence, dedication, and a partnership that will inspire the next generation. He spoke of Alex's historic wins and her unwavering spirit. But it was the final part of the announcement that caused a collective gasp from the audience. The deal wasn't just a sponsorship. It was a multi-year, multi-million-dollar collaboration that included global campaigns, exclusive appearances, and a focus on developing tennis in Southeast Asia. This wasn't just a contract, it was a movement. The executive stepped aside and Alex stepped up to the microphone, the whole world watching. As she began to speak, her voice, though shaking at first, grew strong and clear. She wasn't just accepting an award, she was accepting a mission. She was no longer just a tennis player, she was a symbol of hope. The announcement had been made, and the world was stunned by the sheer magnitude of it. The deafening applause from the press conference seemed to go on for an eternity, a sonic wave that washed over Alex Eala and finally broke the dam of emotion she had been holding back. It wasn't just the applause that overwhelmed her. It was the realization that she was no longer just a dreamer, but a dream realized. The weight of years of sacrifice, of endless drills, of lonely hotel rooms, of victories and defeats that had shaped her, all converged in that singular moment. She looked at her mother, who was crying in the back of the room, and she felt a surge of love and gratitude that eclipsed any endorsement deal. The Emirates partnership was about money, yes, and fame, but it was also about validation. It was a giant, global corporation looking at a young Filipina girl and saying, "You are a champion. We believe in you." This was the validation her country had been waiting for, a sign that the world was finally paying attention to the talent rising from the Philippines. Alex Eala wasn't just a tennis prodigy anymore. She was an icon, a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of unwavering belief. The road ahead would not be easy. The scrutiny would be greater, the expectations higher. But with this stunning announcement, she had proven that she could handle the pressure. The Emirates deal provided her with the resources to build a team around her, the freedom to focus solely on her game, and the platform to inspire millions. As she walked out of the conference room and into the sunlight, the world felt different. The future was no longer a path she had to walk. It was a sky she was ready to conquer. The biggest break of her career had just happened, but it was just the beginning. The world now knew her name. Alex Eala was here, and she wasn't going anywhere. This was the dawn of a new era. If you enjoy this latest tennis update and want to stay ahead of the biggest stories in the world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe the channel right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. See you in the next video.